Welcome back to Hardball. Well, 10.5 years after the September 11th attacks, one of the most nagging questions to some remains the possible role of the Saudi government in the whole thing, or at least elements of it, in what happened that horrible day in our country. Well, former Senator Bob Graham, a smart, serious guy, led a joint congressional inquiry into the attacks and served as chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee back then. Here's what he said in an affidavit filed in a lawsuit against the Saudi government brought by families of the victims of 9/11s and others. Quote, this is the senator quoting, "I am convinced there was a direct line between at least some of the terrorists who carried out the September 11th attacks and the government of Saudi Arabia," close quote. Well, what exactly did that direct line look like, and why after 10 years are there still so many unanswered questions? Well, Eric Lichtblau is an investigative correspondent for the New York Times. We're lucky to have him today, and we're also lucky to have Robert Barry. He's a former CIA officer who worked in the Middle East. He's also Time Magazine's intelligence columnist. Eric, you first. Delineate what you think we know now about the possible role of the Saudi government establishment in the hell of 9/11.
Well, there have been 10 years of questions now about the Saudis' possible role. The point of Senator Kerry and Senator Graham, who are both in the middle of investigations, is that those questions have never really been answered. What role did charities play, Saudi charities? There was a very suspicious character in San Diego who knew two of the hijackers, provided them money, and had links to Saudi officials with getting money from Riyadh. Of course, 15 of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, and bin Laden himself, his family had roots there for generations. So there has been this percolating effect for the last 10 years, but now you have two very big names in 9/11 investigations.
Are they saying that the Saudi establishment that we see as an ally, and the president, remember W walking hand in hand with the guy who we kiss up to, and they deal with us because they want our protection, we want their oil. Are these two senators saying that those people who pretend to be our friends had a clear hand in 9/11?
They're suggesting that members of the royal family and royal institutions may have had a role in at least financing the attacks.
Purposefully.
Purposely, that's certainly their implication. Whether that the Saudis, of course.
Okay, where do you come out on this, Bob Baird? We hear you all the time. I do trust you so much. Do you think, based upon this, there's evidence that the royal family, the one we deal with as friends, are really our enemies here?
Oh, I think there's a real problem here. Look at it, Chris. These two guys get off an airplane at LAX. They run into a Saudi official who takes them under his wing to San Diego, pays for him. The same official is getting money from the Saudi embassy. He's spirited out of the country. He's unavailable for an investigation right now. And as Eric said, 15 of the Saudi hijackers were recruited inside the kingdom. We don't know how they were vetted and the rest of it. And Saudi Arabia has simply refused to answer those questions. They're covering up something. This is not one of our best allies.
Well, the truthers, those who believe that our own government was involved in 9/11, have an absolutely opposite view. They believe we did this to get us in war and justify a war with Iraq or whatever over there to make us more hawkish. This seems to be this is our people over there who didn't want us involved in that war. Isn't that the case?
Wait, Chris, these are the crazies. These people are the ones that marginalize the argument by getting involved in it. This government was not involved. What this government did was it afraid of losing Saudi Arabia as a near ally and closed off the investigation. And these are two very serious senators that have brought these allegations up.
Do they believe, as you know, as far as you can tell what they believe, do they believe that the Saudi establishment had a hand in the 9/11 hell?
They're convinced
Saudi establishment.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Eric?
Well,
you read it.
Well, I think the interesting now is where this goes in court, because these declarations from the two senators are coming in the midst of a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit.
And this is the people who are the relatives of those who lost their lives.
These are 9/11
suing the Saudi
families and
government.
survivors, and they've been stopped from suing in court for years now. They've just gotten a green light from appellate court. Basically, more than the money, what they want to do is to find out what happened, and this may be the best avenue through court to actually get some evidence.
But what happened? We know that Al Qaeda did it. We know Al Qaeda's tied in with that.
But they are suing Saudi institutions, dozens and dozens of Saudi institutions that they say the families claim, along with insurance companies that paid out billions of dollars, claim were behind this. And Kerry and Graham are now saying, we're on your side. We think the Saudis may have been more deeply involved than they say.
Why did the Bush administration of George W. Bush rush those Saudi people out of the country so expeditiously and mysteriously right after 9/11, Bob?
We needed Saudi Arabia's help on invading Iraq. One, I think that was in the cards on 9/11. We were looking for allies, and it was really unthinkable that the country that is the world's reserve tank for oil could be on the other side. It was just something too terrifying for people to look at. And I think there's a lot of FBI agents that are very angry about this, that weren't able to pursue this. They'd have a lot more to say why specifically the investigation was cut off.
So where's it headed right now? You first, Bob. Where do you think this news development here that the two U.S. senators, former senators, credible people, highly credible, now believe that there's something to the Saudi connection? Where's it headed?
I don't think it's going anywhere. We're on the verge of a war with Iran. We need Saudi Arabia. We're going to need it if we do get dragged into this war.
Bob, thank you so much. More cover-up. That's sad to know. We'd like to know what happens here, especially when it involves so many of our people we care about. Bob Baer, thank you. And Bob and Eric Litzblau, thanks for coming from the New York Times. We love the New York Times here.